Look at that. Now we're live on YouTube. Now we're live on YouTube.
Listen, would it be this show if we didn't wait to actually record it live?
No, hell no. I mean, we're already 2 minutes behind. But all this is included for the people of the podcast. They get it all. The YouTube audience, I forgot. On the live feed, it does this. Click go live. I click go live. And then it's like, are you sure you want to go live? Apparently, I was not sure. So
yeah, it's all right.
We are now live on the YouTubes. So I'm here with Jerry. We've already been talking for the first 2 minutes. You're going to go back and download the podcast to see what you missed. And Jerry, are you ready to talk about some Dynasty seasonal previews, like stuff that will really impact Dynasty rosters?
Listen, is there anything else we can really talk about at this point?
Well, we could talk about Odell Beckham.
Yeah, that would be a shitty conversation, though. Boom, like a pro.
That would be a shitty conversation. I like what you did there. Interesting. Hey, I saw a poll on Twitter that said, how much would it take for you to have a number 2 dropped on you? And it was like, 0 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 90,000, and like 100,000 plus. I'm like, well, anyone who voted on this is willing to get pooped on. It just really right now we're just negotiating. So don't judge that, man, if you answered that poll in any way, shape, or form.
And listen, you would all be ashamed of me if you knew my number, so I'm not even going to tell you what my number is.
$7. $7 US money, and you can too. So anyway, before we get into this, so on tonight's show, again, from a Dynasty standpoint, we're going to talk about our rookie that is going to be a league winner, our rookie most likely to flop, our MVP of the season, who's going to increase their value exponentially. So much going on, but I've got to make sure that we do our promoting. Jerry, have you guys decided on what Monday you're going to drop the Debbie podcast?
We have not yet. I think we're going to want to see how the college football season starts a little bit, which is coming up too, baby.
Well, that and you got to figure if the presidents and the commissioner of the Big Ten get their head out of their ass and decide to actually have a season.
We'll see what they do.
That would be helpful. And if you stick around all the way to the end of this podcast, Jerry and I are going to give you one name each from the NCAA to keep an eye on as we go into draft season. Especially mine is from the Big Ten. So spoiler alert without a spoiler alert. So be on the lookout for the Debbie Show. If you're subscribed to this feed, you're going to get it tomorrow night on both the YouTube feed and live here on the podcast on Thursday morning. We're going to be doing the DFS and gambling show with myself, with Dr. Kyle, and we're going to be covering our game of the week, our player props of the week, our DFS for both tournament and cash game. Going to be a real interesting look at Dynasty and Fantasy for Wednesday night. So, Jerry, you've been tuning in. What do you think about the show so far?
It's good. Well, like I said, I'm not a huge gambler. I like to hear different reasons why you guys bet the reasons that you do, like why you pick those games, because that's where all your best nuggets are. If you'd like me to be completely honest with you, I think your Vegas influence, the way Vegas influences your decisions, I think is something that is very untapped in the world of fantasy. And I think it's very critical. I think it because if there's one thing, money talks and bullshit walks, and Vegas likes money. And Vegas usually likes to win money. And there's usually a reason that they come up with everything. So that's why I like to listen to you guys. Well, you have to have every avenue open to you.
The reason why I use Vegas is exactly what you said. It's one thing to be a part-time fantasy football analyst and a full-time accountant or a full-time teacher or a full-time whatever. I'm a production manager by trade of a couple of buildings. But it's another thing to actually put your hard-earned cash on the line and say, hey, this is what I believe. It's one thing to drop the random hot take on Twitter, but that's easy to walk away from. Show me a betting slip. And don't pretend like even though your state doesn't have legalized gambling, you can't get down, because you totally can. I never had any issues here in the great state of Indiana prior to the legalization. Jerry, it's legal up there in Michigan, right?
It is, newly, as of 2020, I believe.
But you guys have to go to casinos, right? You guys aren't allowed to do app-based betting.
No. Yeah, just casinos or horse tracks, that kind of thing.
Well, look forward to the apps, man. The apps are kind of like Netflix to Blockbuster. It's great to be able to get in the car and run down and rent the latest movie, but it's also a lot easier just to fire up Netflix and watch whatever it is that you want to watch. The YouTube, Jerry, I did a live YouTube video on Saturday talking about Antonio Gibson and just some quick thoughts, man. And you're going to be doing some of that, as well as Matt, our video editor and a great Dynasty player in his own right, as well as Dr. Kyle. I saw tonight, as we're recording live on Tuesday on YouTube, that Brandon Cooks in his practice with a hamstring or some kind of muscle injury. And that's the kind of thing you'd want Dr. Kyle to go live on, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, and of course, that's exactly what would happen with Brandon Cooks, isn't it? Like every time I have just a little sliver of hope for the man, he just takes it away. Come on.
Yeah, and so make sure you guys are subscribed and turn the notifications on. Again, at some point this week, Dr. Kyle will land an injury update. May not, maybe 5 minutes, but you don't want to miss it. What about the podcast? If you're not watching the live feed, you're really getting, yesterday's newspaper tomorrow. And sometimes that can be very beneficial, but a lot of times it's not. So make sure you're subscribed, and then on. I don't know, Jerry, pick a day. Pick a day. You and I will go live one day this week, and we will redraw for the DK Metcalf jersey. Do you have a day in mind?
I mean, listen, you are the one that does stuff. All you got to do is let me know. What, you want to do this tomorrow?
Let's do this tomorrow night. That's Wednesday night, Wednesday 9/9/2020, right before we go live with Dr. Kyle on the Fabulous Big Bet podcast. We will redraw for the DK Metcalf jersey. What do you think, Jer?
And I can win it this time?
Nope.
This is horse shit.
Hey, you didn't rate and review the fucking podcast. Get out of here.
Listen, you don't know that. Maybe I have a pseudonym. You don't know.
Well, then when the pseudonym wins and Mike Jernigan sends out that jersey, just give me the pseudonym's correct address and we'll get in there like swimwear. So we will run that through the Wheel of Names tomorrow night, 9 o'clock on the YouTube feed live, which will then transition right into the live version of the Fabulous Big Bet. All right, Jerry, a couple other things to talk about real quick. We have a new sponsor, Jerry.
Moving up in the world, Randy.
Nothing against ball hair trimmers, but we're moving in a direction differently than the ball hair trimmers, Jerry.
Yeah, which is usually not our MO. So it's good to see that we're changing course on this one.
No, it's not that we're against, taking care of yourself, but man,
absolutely.
Everybody's on that ball hair trimmer. So we have linked up with athletic apparel brand, Hate Brand Goods. You can find it at thehate.com. That's the HVIII.com on the interwebs. And this company was founded by two-time Highland Games champion Matt Vincent. I've been following Matt on Instagram and Twitter for the last 4 or 5 years. The shirt that I'm wearing live on the YouTube is one of their shirts. If you ever follow me on Instagram, all the shorts that I wear in the gym are Hate Brand shorts. I wear the joggers, Jerry. This stuff is top-notch. It's designed for the athlete who goes to the gym. I love them, especially if you're into the classic lifts like squats and deadlifts and what have you. Jerry, you're not into those though.
I am not, but listen, I'm looking at you right now. Whew, oh, those pecs are looking good, and I think it's the shirt. Sorry, I think it's fake. I think you paid for that, and it's all the cloth.
I had a pectoral implant. So, but they've also got other cool stuff. They've got gym bags. They've got towels. They got one of the sweetest coffee mugs out there. It says "Kick Today in the Dick."
I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you're interested in checking out an apparel brand, it's a lifestyle brand. If you're fashion forward at all, and you're looking for something outside of Nike or Under Armour, Adidas, and you just want to mix some of this stuff in, that's how I got involved with the brand. Again, I didn't, agree to become a sponsor of this brand and all of a sudden wind up with the T-shirt. I mean, I've had this stuff for a long time. I believe in it. I wear it. And there'll be a link in my Twitter bio as well as the show bio. And you can save 10% at checkout by using code Memphis. So go over there, check it out. If you're trying to, mix up your fashion game a little bit, Jerry got a new haircut. We got to get him in some joggers before he gets back to campus.
I don't even know what the hell joggers are.
They're the tapered sweatpants, Jerry, that have the
okay.
They're not like your dad's old man creepy gray ass sweatpants
that comes with like a
tank
tops with it's got like mustard on it. Maybe it's like a Marlboro cigarette T-shirt or something. Oh yeah, I know the look.
I was thinking like barbecue sauce, but yeah, we're on the same page. So if you're looking for something fresh, something different, go to thehate.com. That's HVIII.com, or just go to the link in the show notes or on my Twitter page. And then the Patreon, Jerry, dude, I am having more fun in the Patreon than ever before.
Yeah, and they bust my balls if I don't talk for long enough. I came back and they were like, "Oh, it's good to see you're back." Man, it's been like 4 hours. Give me a break.
So in the sake of being purely transparent, there are a lot of other group chats that I'm in that I kind of I definitely put on the back burner, because right now I'm in a busier season at work. Obviously, we're doing a lot with the podcast, the YouTube, everything else going on. But man, I love the Patreon. One of our patrons got engaged today, or is getting engaged. They posted a picture of the ring. We're talking about a redraft. One patron had a redraft fall through, and two other patrons agreed to split the entry fee and jump in to save this league to get it's an amazing group of people. And if you want to know what you're missing out on, just go to patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone and see what's up. And if you want to bust Jerry's balls in a group setting, we would love to have you.
They are all so good at it. It's like when you join, a little bit of Randy gets injected into you, and it just comes naturally.
Well, Jerry, you do know who brings all the patrons into the group chat, right?
Oh yeah, no, you get the first hello. It's got me a little jealous. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Randy gets to drop whatever GIF he wants. It's fine.
Oh, you keep that GIF thing on the DL, young man. That is a classified patron business only. But you can find out what it's about, patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. And don't forget to go to iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this. If you're watching on the YouTube, please hit subscribe. And if you're on the YouTube, please click notifications. That way you don't miss anything we've got going on. We are only going to ramp up the content. And Jerry, here's the dirty secret that these people don't get. Jerry, do you listen to podcasts besides ours?
I do.
I want you to look in your podcast queue at the 3 podcasts in front of us and look at the 3 behind us. There's a good chance that the content will dry up like the Sahara come about February 1. And dude, that's when we're just getting started. That's when we really ramp this thing up. You Debbie guys are going to have a ton going on. Rate, review, and subscribe. You don't miss a thing that way.
And listen, when I first started getting into podcasts, like for the longest time, I never listened to any of them. And then I started listening to Matthew Berry. He started making me realize that I was dog shit at fantasy and I could get better at it. So I started trying.
Hey, hold on. Me and Matthew Berry have something in common. Keep going.
But it would get to be that part of the season, and all of a sudden those 5 episodes a week that I was eating up every single time I went to work, now I got one every 2 weeks, and then I got one a month, and then it breaks your heart is what it does, because you just want to consume. And if there is one thing that the Dynasty Warzone is good at, not speaking, not English. The English language is a flaw of this man. You've got a little handle of it. Your own version that will have its dictionary. Yeah, it will have its own dictionary in the future.
We call that slanguage where I'm from.
Yeah, no, a future historian will find the Randy dictionary and they will have no idea what the hell language we spoke. But if there's one thing we are good at, it is consistency. It's vomiting content upon all of you, because we know that you are all nerds and you're all degenerates and you're all addicted, because we are too. And you wouldn't be here if you weren't exactly like us.
Yeah, we've been something like, I think it's 110 or 112 straight Wednesdays.
Which is just silly. That is just a silly number to say. Good for us. I'm patting my own self on the damn back.
All right. Well, let's give them some dynasty goodness. That's what they're here for, Jerry. So we're going to hit them with some categories about their dynasty roster because that's what this show is about, dynasty. We'll do the other shenanigans on the other show. So let's talk about this, man. Who is going to be your 2020 rookie that will wind up being a league winner?
Well, I'm going to just ignore Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I think he's sort of the obvious choice. And I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins. He's on a prolific rushing offense. He's not going to be the main guy that everybody looks at because Lamar's going to take some of the work and Mark Ingram is there. But I really think they want J.K. Dobbins to do a lot of work. And he can pass, and he can run, and he can block, and he can do everything you want. And the thing about J.K. Dobbins, when you watch that man play at Ohio State, is that man can just take off, and he's gone. He doesn't even look that fast when you watch him play, and all of a sudden he's running 65 yards down the field. He's just one of these guys, and I don't want to say Zeke because they both went to Ohio State, but you watch Zeke, and all of a sudden, boom, he would squirt out and he would just be gone. And I think that's what we're going to be looking at out of J.K. Dobbins. I really think he's going to be, I don't want to say the under the radar running back because he's not. But if he outperformed every single one except for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that's too beneficial of a situation. I would not be surprised at all. Over Jonathan Taylor, over Swift, over CeeDee Lamb and everybody else. I really have this feeling that because it's a crowded backfield, that people are a little bit more down on him in 2020, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Well, I agree with you. And I guess I should preface mine with saying that I also did not talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and JT because where you're drafting those guys in redraft or where you drafted those in your rookie draft, you're already counting on those guys to contribute this year. So there's no value. They can be good. They can certainly help you win. But I think it's a little misleading when you see that on Twitter or other dynasty and fantasy podcasts when they call these guys league winners. They're not league winners. You're not drafting them in a position to where their value helps you win the league. They're part of your main build. And if they don't contribute, you're what I've heard the term fucked if they don't contribute.
Is that what the kids call it?
That is what I call it, Jerry, and I am not a kid. But hey, the kids are cool. You young people, something else. So my rookie league winner is Antonio Gibson. Between the Adrian Peterson news of him getting cut and wound up in Jerry's backyard, Detroit, he is doing to Detroit what Frank Gore is doing to the Jets. But on the Gibson thing, listen to the comments that Adrian Peterson made to Josina Anderson on the way out the door. They want this to be basically a one-man offense. And I'm just reading why would Adrian Peterson lie? To what advantage of it to him is it to say anything misleading to Josina Anderson? And if you don't know anything about Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator, first of all, you must be new. Welcome to the Dynasty WarZone. My name is Memphis. My co-host is Jerry. And I have been a big fan and a proponent of Scott Turner the entire offseason. Who is Scott Turner? Scott Turner was the gentleman last year who turned Christian McCaffrey from an RB1 to the RB1. He went from being, like I said, a top consistent 8, 9, 7, somewhere in that neighborhood guy to the number one with a bullet, baby. And this guy's now the play caller in Washington. It's the same reason why I love Terry McLaurin. More on him in a bit. But I think where you got him, if you've already done your redraft or your rookie leagues, you've got value. Had a fellow owner today offer me an early 2021 second for Antonio Gibson. I'm like, dude, if we were to redo our rookie draft today, he'd go at the 106. He would go at the 106 in a 1 QB league. Superflex, obviously, he would still be a first-round pick. He would be further toward the back. But for me, it's Antonio Gibson all the way because you got him at a value. And because you got him at a value, when he returns the volume and the points, that's why he's going to help you win this league. You weren't counting on him. You were hoping for a little something. And now, if this guy does what Adrian Peterson says he could do, and this guy could go nuclear in your roster. I got him in every redraft league. I've got him in a ton of dynasty leagues. Jerry, what do you think about Antonio Gibson?
It is an interesting situation. That is what I will give you. I think everything you just said was well argued and well justified. But that boy scares the hell out of me. He was not destined to be in the job that he is in now. I think everybody thought Darius Geis was not going to be a pile of human excrement. That was wrong. And then once he was gone, I think they sort of just decided they were not going to play with Adrian Peterson anymore. I think if Darius Geis stays, I think he probably still is. But those are the what ifs. The situation we are in now, Antonio Gibson is the guy. So where you got him, the third, you think that's safe? I don't know many times that Antonio Gibson went in the second, but maybe late. Yeah, you're getting him in a first if the draft was today.
Hey, Jerry, do you know who the number one pick of this draft class was for the Washington football team? Any guesses? It's Chase Young. It's the Predator. It's Chase Young. You know who?
Yeah, he was ahead of the Lions. What am I thinking?
But you know who their second pick was? It was Antonio Gibson. They wanted this guy. They picked him at 66th overall, knowing that they didn't have another pick until 108. And yet they made the decision to pull the trigger on this guy. He was selected by this regime, and that matters. Now, there's still the thing of Peyton Barber, J.D. McKissick's there, Bryce Love is there. Some of those guys were, yeah, I mean.
I don't mean to be rude and to interrupt you, but I just heard that's
crumb bums and shoe clerks.
Crumb bums and shoe clerks. That's my man. Listen, Here's the thing. At third round pick, not that bad. We've seen tons of running backs in this league go in the third round and be pretty good. Alvin Kamara, looking at you, he was pretty good from that spot. And here's the other thing about the dude. Not only was he a great pass catcher that everybody knows, but for some reason, whenever you say that, I've been hearing weird things like that he's a small guy. I don't know in what fucking world you're living in. The dude is 6'2", 220. So he's borderline monstrous compared to other running backs in the league. So he's got pretty good draft capital. He's got the starting job. He's a versatile guy. He's a big guy. Listen, he's raw. He's going to be raw. I am all for selling the hell out of him just because I like to play it safe. But if I'm wrong, which, believe it or not, happens, the man is going to hit out of this world. So I'm not going to argue with you from that standpoint. And as far as the rookie that is most likely to immediately increase their value, is there any competition? Any of them?
Well, here's the thing. I just pulled up his card on playerprofiler.com. 6 foot, 228, 4.3940, speed score 122.8, 99th percentile. Most comparable or best comparable to Joe Mixon. I absolutely
pretty good prospect, just for the record.
I will say, how about this, Jerry? You want a mini bold take to compliment last week?
Mm-hmm.
I will bet you that in 2020, Antonio Gibson gets more targets on the season than Joe Mixon.
I'm not going to argue.
Take that bet if you hate money. All right, let's get this thing moving. So we talked about rookies that we're buying into. Jerry, let's talk about flops. You do know that approximately 40% of all rookies flop. And then, you know, that there's another percentage of the ones that don't flop that just kind of tread water and chug along. So who is your dynasty rookie that's going to flop, especially for 2020?
I hate saying it. I really do. Because I love all Jerrys that are in this world, except for Jerry Sandusky, because he screwed us over. But there is something about that situation in Denver with Cortland Sutton already there, and I just feel like Cortland Sutton is going to feast. And Drew Lock is still going to have some struggling. I just think it's Jerry Jeudy. I think, you know, where did he go in your leagues? Middle of the first round, maybe. You got him at 109, 110. Do I think he's going to return that sort of value? I really don't, Randy. I don't think it's going to be that great of a passing offense. I think there's a whole lot of people in that offense that are going to need their touches. And he's going to be the rookie that's learning how to play, when on the opposite side, he's going to have Cortland Sutton, who's already shown that he's got a dick that hangs to his knee. So that's going to be tough. Don't you give me those wide eyes. You know that's true. It's it's Judy for me, and it hurts because I love the dude as a prospect, and I think if he was in a different situation, I think he could easily have been a league winner. And I'm not saying that he's a bad prospect and you should sell him. I just think in 2020, I think you're going to see a dip in his value.
And let me piggyback on that before I give you my guy. This is by no means a sell low. This is, if anything, this is designed to help you guys. Don't freak out if your guy doesn't have a great season. And, my guy is Justin Jefferson. And before you get your panties all in a knot and say there's no way these guys can bust, I want to give you some results from the last 3 draft classes of guys that
no, don't do that to us.
Of guys that went in the first round that if I had told you they were going to bust 3 years ago, you had told me I was smoking crack or full of shit. And I might be smoking crack and I might be full of shit, but I wasn't wrong when I said Corey Davis was a bust at the 101. That O.J. Howard, to this point, I don't know that he's been a bust, but he's been like a borderline bust.
For the place you got him, he has been a bust.
David Njoku. How about Samaje Perine at the 110?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, Samaje. You know what? Someone bowed up for Samaje Perine a few years ago, the same way people are bowing up for Cam Akers right now. Believe me, shit happens and guys bust. How about Sony Michel at the 104? How about Josh Rosen at the 105 in a Superflex league? How about Baker Mayfield at the 106? Now, Baker's not been a bust. He's been a borderline jag, but at least he's returned some value. How about Rashad Penny at the 109? Or Royce Freeman in front of DJ Moore at the 111? How fucking sad is that owner right now? I won't mention any names because that shit's not cool. But how sad is that person right now when they realize they took Royce fucking Freeman over DJ
Moore? Yeah, dude, that backfired.
I would be puking in my hat. Well, let's go to 2019, right? We get better at this as time goes on, right, Jerry?
Yeah, that's what they say.
No, we fucking don't. N'Keal Harry, 101 overall in 2019. David Montgomery, 109. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, 110. Paris Campbell, I'm a Colts fan, 112. There's still room for improvement. And those jack-offs went before a guy, maybe you've heard of him, named A.J. Brown, Drew Lock, Devin Singletary, and Marquise Brown. Guys, when we tell you that these guys are going to bust, we don't do it to be dicks. We don't do it to be hot take-ish. We're telling you this because this shit happens. And
you didn't name all the names. I mean, we could talk Rojo. We could talk Kerryon Johnson. We could talk Darius Geis. We could keep going.
There are plenty. Jerry, they do an FM radio, right?
What's that?
They play nothing but the hits. So I just came out with the greatest hits. And my rookie most likely to flop this year is Justin Jefferson. He's already in 2 wide receiver sets. He is behind Olabisi Johnson. BC's is running with the ones. It's him and Adam Thielen. And then in those 2 wide receiver sets, it's BC, Thielen, Rudolph, Irv Smith Jr. And this is a team that ran 2 wide receiver set, 2 tight end sets, 74% of the time last year. Then you add into the fact that in college, Justin Jefferson played 98% of his snaps out of the slot. This is no bueno. He's been running with the 2s. I am concerned. This was the pick that everybody thought would have been a great fit for the Eagles, and the Eagles passed him up and went with Jalen Reagor. I have my concerns, and I think that this will be. Not only do I think he will flop for 2020, he may be one of the ones we're looking back 3 years from now, like we just looked back over the last 3 draft classes. He may be the one we look back on and go, holy shit. He was a product of that Joe Brady offense. Holy shit, he was a product of the Joe Burrow quarterback situation. He was the product of being on the field with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and a great offensive line. And we may look back and just say, we whiffed on this guy. Jerry, what do you think, kid?
I mean, I'm a Justin Jefferson guy, but I mean, it's a good argument. I'm not gonna debate it. I firmly believe that Kirk Cousins is a pretty good quarterback in this league, and I think he can step into the Stephon Diggs role. But it's all concerning. Don't get me wrong. The Olabisi Johnson stuff, I don't know how much I buy into that. If you thought Olabisi Johnson was so great, I I don't know. Then why haven't we really seen it? And why did you take Justin Jefferson in the first round? But I've seen organizations do that. Looking at you, Rashad Penny. I hear you. And it's going to be somebody. And if it's him, listen, here's the thing about him at LSU. Like you said, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Thaddeus Moss, Joe Brady's back there. You got Coach O just raspy as all hell on the sideline. Maybe he was. And honestly, if I was going to be a betting man, I would put the percentage on him being one of the people that busts a little bit higher than most, even though I like the guy, just because of that situation where it was, you were a rich kid just living in the fenced in neighborhood. And, that made you think, you were sitting on third base and you thought you hit a triple.
It's odd. Had he been drafted, literally had him and Jalen Reagor flip spots, he'd be at a smash right now.
Yeah.
I mean, with Arcega-Whiteside running on the outside, Deshaun Jackson can run outside, and he was allowed to play his natural slot with the Eagles and 3 wide receiver sets with Carson Wentz, and a team that I think they were definitely top 10 in pass volume last year from the attempt standpoint. That would be awesome. He just happened to get drafted to a team that Kirk Cousins had a career low 440 attempts last year. That was one of the lowest pass attempts in the league. Those are my concerns. I like him. Jerry, I'm going to roll right into my fantasy MVP. And remember, much like my rookie MVP, you're most likely to win the league. You can't tell me Christian McCaffrey. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. If Christian McCaffrey does not return the 101 or at least a top 5 running back, you're pissed. He's expected to help you win your league. If he doesn't, he didn't do his job. And you can also include Lamar Jackson in that group. You can include Patrick Mahomes in that group. You can include Michael Thomas in that group. So when I said MVP, I focused on the word value. Who is going to give you the most valuable player? Matthew Stafford, absolute smash. And I'm not going to be one of the slapdicks that goes around telling you, well, if you go back to last year and he played exactly half the snaps, and if you multiply that by 2, look, I don't need a calculator to tell you that he was on pace for 38 touchdowns. I don't need a calculator to tell you that he was on pace for only 10 interceptions and almost 5,000 yards. That's the easy shit. That's the shit that my 13-year-old can do by going to his player card. But look at the next level stuff. In this Darrell Bevell offense, Matthew Stafford was completing 64.3% of his completions. His career average is 62. So he was completing more passes. He was running a career high in TD percentage. 6.5% of his attempts were going for touchdowns. He was running a career high in yards per attempt. His career average in yards per attempt, 7.2. In the Darrell Bevell offense, 8.6. That's significant. He was also running a career high in passer rating. He was on pace to have his first career year over a 100 passer rating. And the metric that Vegas uses is QBR. He was on pace to have a 70 QBR. To put that in perspective, a 52 is average in the league, and a 70 would have put him, I believe, top 6 in the league. So forget the basic stats. Look at the next level stats, and you will see that not only is he in an offense built to help him succeed, but he should have all of his weapons. He should have a fully healthy Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, year 2 of TJ Hawkinson. They added a great pass-catching running back out of the backfield in DeAndre Swift if he gets rid of this mysterious leg injury. They still have Danny Amendola. He plays in a dome 8 games of the year. I mean, just an absolute, 9 games of the year because he plays one against Minnesota. An absolute smash spot for Matthew Stafford. He is going to return a shit pile of value. Jerry, you dream in hues of Honolulu blue. What do you think about my Matthew Stafford take?
Well, that would mean the Lions are pretty good. And
before you get into that, I don't want to cut you off, but I've been listening to it's the Dream Preview with RJ Bell, and they had some of the big boys in town doing their NFC and AFC preview. And dude, all the Vegas sharps are really on the Detroit Lions. So Jerry, there's something to hang your hat on that you're not wearing, by the way. No trucker cap.
No, I just have the weird wavy hair going on right now. Listen, I would love for that to be true. I think this is the time when the Detroit Lions spread out their hatred, when you start to buy into them and then they suck the life from you. I think they're going to learn that lesson. No. Listen, the things that Matthew Stafford did with Darrell Bevell in the beginning of last season was unbelievable. My man looked like a cyborg. He looked like he was going to win the MVP. So I don't think it's that crazy what you're saying. If the back issue is not really an issue and it is behind him, and the hand or whatever it was 2 years ago too, where he was wearing the glove, if that's gone and this man is playing like he was last year, Randy, that's not even a reach. The man is freaking good. And at some point, hopefully, the Detroit Lions fans believe it. As far as mine is concerned, this has put me in a little bit of a pickle, Dick, because I am not entirely sure which guy I want to go with. So I'm going to go with a couple because A, I'm lazy. B, you probably won't interrupt me because I'm the one that usually rudely interrupts you. If I'm going to go with a quarterback, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray because you hate him, and I'm going to spit it out really quick because I don't want you to interrupt me on this one. The dude can run. The dude is fast. The dude has DeAndre Hopkins, who is locked down. Flip me off all you want. The man has dynamic options. I do agree with you that Cliff Kingsbury is a crumb bum. He hasn't fully hit shoe clerk. We'll give it another year before he hits that. Kyler Murray has a chance. If Kyler Murray can run for 600 or 700 yards and improve his passing, he's in there like swimwear. If we're going to go with a wide receiver, ready? Another guy you hate and another guy we're going to talk about his jersey tomorrow, DK Metcalf. This dude, as a rookie, hit you with the 900 yards and the 7 touchdowns. He's got Russell Wilson throwing him the ball. Listen, Tyler Lockett's there. I get it. And Tyler Lockett is not very sexy, but Tyler Lockett does what you need him to do. DK Metcalf is just a freak. He's a cyborg. I know in the Patreon chat I called Australian cyborgs, but DK Metcalf really is a cyborg. At the beginning of last season, he only had 1 touchdown the first month he played. He ended up with 7 on the season. 5 of the last 7 games that he played, he got banged up in week 16, didn't really play. He got over 70 yards in 5 of those 7 games. I mean, he was really starting to pick it up. He was really starting to get a rapport with Russ. Who's another one? Now that I'm just spitballing and I'm just rambling, Austin Eckler. If Austin Eckler can repeat what he did and gain some of that rushing yards, it would not surprise me entirely. Because that dude, he is built to do what you need him to do to be Christian McCaffrey. We just haven't seen it quite yet. But if he grows, wouldn't shock me. Randy, shit on that like I'm Odell if you want.
No, I like all those guys, but I want you to just pick the one you. I love the Eckler take. I had I'm going to call it a heated discussion with a Twitter follower on Memorial Day he was talking about Eckler and his quarterback, and it's changed. And I'm like, well, that's fine. I also agree that the change from Uncle Phil to Tyrod is a reason for concern, but you can't do that unless you also have concern about Christian McCaffrey. You got a new quarterback. You got a new OC. You got a new OC too. At least Eckler's got the same OC. And you know what? You know who else got a new OC? Saquon Barkley. We don't know what the Clapper's going to do there in New York with him. At least he has the same quarterback. Oh, but the concern with the quarterback is that Daniel Jones has targeted Saquon Barkley 2 less times a game than Eli Manning. So don't give me this pie in the sky bullshit about the Austin Eckler's quarterback is a concern. It is a slight concern, but you can't say it out of one side of your mouth and then not have concerns about other guys getting new quarterbacks. Hey, James White's got a new quarterback. So does Melvin Gordon, and so does Marlon Mack, and so does Jonathan Taylor, and so does Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and so do a lot of guys. We got to let this play out. Ask yourself, is the head coach still there? Is the OC still there? What did the offense look like? What did the weapons around them look like? If you want to bring Eckler down a tick, I'm cool with that. I think that Eckler is going to be a great value this year. But don't give me lazy pie in the sky Twitter takes, or I will come with the hot fire. All right, Jerry, let's talk busts. Let's talk about flops. Let's talk about guys that are not going to return their ADP. And I'm going to start with Derrick Henry. And I know that's going to get me Twitter shit from the listeners, and that's cool. But I'm going to back it up with stats. First of all, if you've listened to the Fabulous Big Bet, I've made bets against Derrick Henry's season total, because if you go back and historically look, and I don't have that data in front of me, but the person who wins the rushing title misses about 5 games a year the following year on average. That's over the last 10 years. So if you go back to 10 last rushing champions, the next year their production goes down about 40%, and they miss about 5 games on average. So let's look at some other deeper stats on Derrick Henry. So last year in weeks 7 through 17, when Ryan Tannehill took over, Tennessee scored TDs on 34.6% of their drives. That was second in the NFL. And they only scored a field goal on 3.1% of their drives. That was the least amount of field goals in the NFL. They had a 31-1 touchdown to field goal ratio in that 11-game stretch. Oh, and Derrick Henry, he scored 16 rushing TDs last year. 12 of those came in that stretch. Does he convert TDs at the exact same way? I don't know. But I do know that they have a fairly easy schedule. But I think between the curse of the rushing champion, we'll call it, and the lack of efficiency in the red zone with this offense, I think he's only bound to go down in points. And I think his ADP is as high as it's ever been. And then from a dynasty standpoint, what is this, year 5? I mean, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. This is year 5. And, this is when those running backs start to turn into pumpkins. So I like Derrick Henry. I think it was great to see his breakout of all time last year. And I also don't like that 100 touches, rushes that he had week 17 and in the 3 playoff games. Those are hard-hitting playoff rushes, not old-fashioned week 1 pillow fight touches. So for me, my concern from both a durability standpoint and a production standpoint is Derrick Henry. So Jerry, I know you're a Henry guy to a degree. What do you got?
I'm always going to be a volume guy. What do you say? The 2 V's, value and volume. He's always going to be a volume guy. But he's never going to be a sexy guy. Last year was the time you got to be a sexy guy. And unfortunately, when something like that happens, when somebody explodes like that, the very next year they're overvalued. It happens every year. It's everyone goes totally blind and everyone stops using rational thought and they just overvalue everything. And that's exactly what he is. I'm not going to argue with that at all, because what have we said numerous times over this offseason is the efficiency of the Tennessee Titans is going to dip. It was an absurd amount last year, and that is going to fall, and that will fall, believe it or not, on the guy that is a giant vast majority of that offense. So he's not going to be useless, but I don't think that's what you're saying. He's just not going to live up to where you're drafting him or what you would have traded for him or whatever else. If we're going with my guy, and by the way, yours, not a surprise. I think if people were going to pick 2 or 3 guys, I think we could have come up with them. And if we were going to pick 2 or 3 guys on mine, I think this is definitely one of them. And it's Kenyon Drake of the Arizona Cardinals. What do I have to do? The dude's like, 26? And he finally showed up a little bit. And this dude's 2nd, 3rd round startup picks. And I don't get it. We're going to talk about the age of Derrick Henry, and we're not going to talk about the age of Kenyon Drake. He is right in that mix of just falling off the face of the earth. And I don't want to hear about the wear on the tires. It is irrelevant. The problem is this man is just, he's not it. Every single year in fantasy, like I say, how we always buy into the guy that does too well and we take him in the first, when Peyton Manning throws for 50 touchdowns and people overreact and redraft and they draft him. That happens every time. The other thing that always happens is the guy that does really well at the end of the season, you put him in the 3rd round of the next year, the 2nd round, or the 4th round, whatever. He far exceeds where he actually should be. Alex Collins, Zach Stacy. We do this every single year. Damian Williams. How many times did we have a podcast last offseason where we just had to just grit our teeth and get through a Damian Williams conversation? It happened every time. Kenyon Drake is that this year. The problem is that this man showed up in Arizona, and people have been hearing about Kenyon Drake. And as soon as he gets out of Miami, he's going to blow up. And his first game in Arizona, what does he do, Randy? He goes for 160 and a tizzy. Of course that would happen because Kenyon Drake is an elite asset. And then for the next month, he shit the fucking bed. He did nothing. Why do nobody ever wants to talk about that? Let's look at it. Ready? 10 carries, 35 yards. Awesome. At least he's a great receiving back, right? He got 6 yards. Cool. Thanks for following that legendary startup. Get out of here. The next week, 16 carries, 67 yards. Awesome. At least he's a great receiving back, though, right, Randy? 13 yards. Awesome. Thank you for that. The next week, 13 carries, 31 yards, 20 receiving yards. The week after that, 11 carries, 37 yards for 30 yards receiving. The man couldn't crack 60, 75 yards ever in that month. I'm sorry. If you think that is a second or a third round running back where you get an entire month of production that looks like poop, no. So what did he do? His first game he showed up, he did great. The semifinals blew the hell up. Had 4 touchdowns, looked great. Championship had another good game where he got the 2 touchdowns. So the 3 games you cared about where you saw him, he did excellent. And the rest of the time, he peed on his own shoes and did nothing for you. No. Listen, if you happen to have Kenyon Drake in your flex last year, you were thrilled. That is the definition of a league winner, not Christian McCaffrey or one of those guys that you draft early. Someone that you picked up, you started in your flex, and they got you over the top, which is exactly what that guy is. But what he is not is an elite dynasty asset. Get the hell out of here. Stop it. When Chase Edmonds was given the opportunity, that man took it, and that man ran with it too. Why in the hell do you think he's not going to get opportunities? Kenyon Drake, how many carries did I just say he got in those games? 10, 16, 13, 11, 12, 15. That's a second round pick? That's a third round pick? Get out of here. No, that's the bust. That's the easy one.
Jerry's pre-workout brought to you by Pablo Escobar. Jerry is on one. Now, I'm with you. I don't know that I'm as passionate about it as you are. Just for me, he saw a career amount of usage last year in his split time. He had a career high in rushes with 170. The thing that concerns me, it's the same thing that concerns me about a lot of guys, is that in his 8 games in Arizona, he only had 28 receptions. So he averaged just over 3 a game, which isn't horrible. It's not Derrick Henry. It's not Joe Mixon. It's better than that. But for where you're drafting him right now and what you're paying to acquire him, especially in a dynasty startup, that's no good. I traded a Kenyon Drake share. I traded him straight up for DJ Chark in a league, and I walk around with my chest puffed out. Our boy Matty Big Chest, our boy Dan Williamson from the GOAT District, that was 2 of their big guys. Jerry, let's roll into this from a value standpoint, from a dynasty value standpoint. I am using Dynasty Trade Calculator, by the way. Good friends of the show, Izzy and JP, the boys of the Dynasty Trade Calculator. So this question is player most likely to double their DTC value. Jerry, would you like to go first? You have the honors, Your Honor.
I can go first.
Go first. So you're already fired up.
What?
You're on one.
I am. And this is sort of a follow-up to the last Kenyon Drake rant. Now, luckily, I don't have the passion for this rant that I had for the last one, but it is related. There was a running back that was actually given an opportunity in the same backfield, and I just happened to talk about him. That is Chase Edmonds. You want to talk about a running back that's in that offense that's young, that has shown everything that Kenyon Drake has? His name is Chase Edmonds. You want to talk about a guy who had a 150-yard game? In the one time he was given an opportunity to actually work, and he exploded. And then they brought in Kenyon Drake, and he did pretty good. I'm just not buying it. I don't think he is consistent enough, and I think Chase Edmonds is going to creep into that opportunity. I don't think he's going to be worth it a ton during the season, but I don't think Kenyon Drake is long for that job. And I think the perception around Kenyon Drake 365 days from now is going to not be favorable. And that means that the guy who's young, has produced, and is under contract is going to get a boost in value. And I think that's Chase Edmonds. And I think he's going to show up. I like him so much better. And he's cheap. And so even if his value doubles, it's still David Montgomery, which I think if given the opportunity, that dude's going to be a whole hell of a lot better than Chase Edmonds. So I know I went with a pretty cheap option. Who do you have? Randy hasn't talked in 15 minutes. I haven't shut the hell up. So I want you, my friend, to tell me, because if there's one person who is very good at getting the guy that jumps in value, it is Mr. Memphis. Mr. Memphis, who you got?
Well, this should come as no surprise, guys. I stick very true to my I actually
Baker Mayfield. Let's go. Let's hear this.
For as much, God, this is going to be such a play on words. But as much for as I've shit on Baker Mayfield, not like in an Odell Beckham sort of way to get shit on, but as much as I've figuratively shit on Baker over the years. If you listen to last week's show, I've turned a corner on Baker. Yeah. I'm at peace with who Baker is. On a side note, he is a QB2. I think his best case scenario is Kirk Cousins 2019, which was the QB 15 overall, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with Baker being around 15. I'm at peace. If you're not at peace, that's a you problem, not a me problem. But I tell you who's not a problem for any of us: Terry McLaurin. Run teams. I love this man. This one was a layup, man. His current Dynasty trade calculator value is 20.5. That's about the equivalent to the 105, if I remember correctly. I mentioned earlier his OC. I've used this before. His OC is Scott Turner. This is the guy who force-fed DJ Moore 135 targets last year in 14 games, so just a shade under 10 targets a game. I think you're going to see nothing but the TMC and Antonio Gibson show in Washington. And as a low-key buy, I like buying Dwayne Haskins as my QB3. People, much like Mitch Trubisky, here's the thing. If I had a Gardner Minshew share before the season started, I would go give my Gardner Minshew share and the cool-ass mustache and the headband. I would give that shit to the Haskins owner. Because I believe in Haskins. I believe they believe in Haskins. And he was named the starter. I mean, they brought in Kyle Allen from Carolina with Ron Rivera, with Scott Turner. And Haskins won this job. He won it in camp. And he's going to get the opportunity to show us. So here's the thing. Worst case scenario, both of them are out of a job next year. So, but best case scenario is that I don't believe Haskins is out of a job next year. Terry's Dynasty trade calculator value, again, 20.5. Wide receivers in that double range, that 40 range, would be DeAndre Hopkins, who is at 36. Devonta Adams is at 44. Tyreek Hill's at 44. Chris Godwin at 42. And DJ Moore at 35. So I could easily see Terry with a season that not only me, but now at this point, the entire Dynasty and fantasy industry has. He's going to double. So if you go out right now from a league mate and you buy Terry McLaurin, I still feel like there's room to buy equity. So that's why I selected him. Jerry, I love yours and Chase Edmonds because Kenyon Drake, one thing I didn't hear you say, maybe I missed it, he's on a 1-year deal. And there's no guarantee that he comes back. And they also kept Eno Benjamin, so there's only 3 running backs there. And there's no reason why Chase Edmonds can't blow up. But Jerry, if you're going to have someone who doubles their value, whose stock is going to plummet like a rock in the ocean?
Well, I got 2 guys. I'm going to save one just so we can talk about him at the end. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones as my guy. They drafted A.J. Dillon. I know they came out with the depth chart that said that he's 3rd on the depth chart. That's stupid. You didn't draft him in the 2nd round to be 3rd on your depth chart. But it's Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has had injury issues. The thing is that he put it all together last year. So now we have this narrative that isn't going to happen, and that's if you're a betting man, that is not a good bet to make. He also made his bread on touchdowns. How many did he have last year? 19, 16, something damn near 20. Not repeatable. Not even close to repeatable. Even if it's 9, the man will have a good season. But that offense is, I mean, Devontae Adams is like 27, 28. Aaron Rodgers is 103. It's just not, it's not trending. It's not a young, growing offense. It seems like it's on the precipice of a steep decline. And if there is one of those situations, why in the heck would you want to build it around an injury-prone running back? And maybe he signs. I really don't think we're going to see a big money jump from Aaron Jones. And if I am wrong, I could be wrong, but I am pretty sure he was a senior when he came out of UTEP, which means he's on the older side, which means he's probably already 25 or 26, or at least he'll be turning, 25 or 26 this season. And didn't we talk about Derrick Henry? Wasn't that one of the things where we're starting to get to that point where it's getting a little rough?
But I'm not going to cut you off, but I do like Aaron Jones. And the difference between Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry, if they were both 2016 model cars, one of them has been a lot higher mileage and ridden. One of them is basically like a former rental car that you have no idea how people treated, versus the one's fairly low miles. But I get what you're saying.
It was owned by the old people.
Yeah, it was, the classic tale, owned by the old lady down the street. She only used it to drive to church and to pick up groceries on Sunday. Super low mileage.
It might smell like cigarettes, but it's still in good shape.
I'm with you. I think Aaron Jones is a touchdown regression, but the fact that he is working on a contract negotiation, it's a good offense. And much like we've talked about other people, we talked about Antonio Gibson basically being the number 2 target in Washington. Who's the number 2 target behind Adams? Why can't it be Aaron Jones? Even if he gives up some of the rushing touchdowns, I think that's kind of obvious. I think your point is very well stated. I still think he could offset some of that with some PPR volume. But do you want to pull an Odell Beckham on? I guess in this case, Aaron Jones would also be Odell Beckham. And would you like to continue to poop on, allegedly, either one of these guys?
Oh God, is that who you're going with? You're pooping on OBJ?
It's funny. I wrote this show sheet long before the news of the day broke. But yes, mine is Odell Beckham Jr. He's currently going for a 30 in the Dynasty trade calculator. That's a very high first round pick. And guys that I think his value is going to get cut in half. And honestly, the guys who are worth half of quote unquote Odell Beckham's 30, whether that's Tyler Lockett at 16, his teammate Jarvis Landry at 15, Devontae Parker at 15, or Bobby Woods at 17. Those are all guys that for this season, with the exception of Landry, I'll gladly take over Odell Beckham Jr. Why? Because the last 3 years, his teammate Landry has been the wide receiver 12 overall, the wide receiver 18 overall, and the wide receiver 5 overall. His last 3 years, his target share has been 161, 149, and 138. And this is a low-volume offense. We continue to talk about Kevin Stefanski. They just re-signed Kareem Hunt. Under Stefanski last year, we covered this on the Big Bet last week with Dr. Kyle. Jerry, Kirk Cousins last year attempted 440 pass attempts. Do you know what his career low in a season was before that? I
don't know that answer.
540. His attempts were cut. His low was cut by 100. And would you consider the Minnesota Vikings successful last year? Made the playoffs, won a playoff game. How'd they do that in Minnesota, Jerry?
They were running the ball, Randall,
and playing defense, right? Cleveland's defense. They do have some holes. They've lost some people in camp, but they've got a good defense. They did not give up one 300-yard passer last year. So what did Kevin Stefanski see work firsthand in Minnesota last year? You run the ball, you run play action, you don't turn the ball over, and you be hyper efficient. It's part of the reason why I no longer am as concerned about Baker. His ceiling is limited, but his floor is safe. And for those reasons, man, I don't think Odell Beckham's going to get the volume. And I think when he doesn't get the volume, he becomes a diva. And then all of a sudden, this time next year, you could be talking, and his contract's very cuttable. I don't believe he has any guaranteed money left on his deal at all. And they owe him like $15 million over per season over the next 3. 2, Jerry, either that or you're giving me.
No, that was me telling him peace out, homie.
Oh, I was like, I think he's good for 3 more seasons, but at this point, we're already concerned, quote unquote, concerned about DeAndre Hopkins being 28 in a new offense. At this point, Beckham could be 28 and a half on a new offense with a new OC, and then what? Not saying that would be the end of his career, but I think his stock and his value in Dynasty is going to plummet. So, Jerry, before we get out of here, as the Debbie host, do you have any young guys that you want to remind these people of? I have a Big Ten guy that I want to share with these people, but is there a name you want to put in their ear holes so they remember going through this weird COVID college season?
I'm going to talk about one that's obvious, because even if you don't know much about Devi, you've heard the man's name, but it's Travis Etienne, and it's because he's playing, so we actually get to watch the man play, which is a good thing. He also has the possibility of being next year's Jonathan Taylor-esque talent. So keep an eye on him, watch him. You want to, look at the things that you liked about the running backs and where they went, where you took Jonathan Taylor, why Clyde Edwards-Helaire went. Because even if Clyde doesn't go to Kansas City, he's still going to be a first-round pick. J.K. Dobbins was always going to be a first-round pick. Swift, Taylor. Look at the things that you liked about them. See how they're similar with Travis Etienne. And if you see similarities, know that is somebody that is going to go very high in your first round. He's good, and that's people telling you, oh, that's a 2x4. That's a really good 2x4. And I don't mean to be lazy, but he's one of these guys that you are going to hear us talk about, not on the Devi show, but in 6, 7, 8 months on this show, we are going to be talking about him probably every single week. So keep an eye on him. Another guy is another running back from a school that you are going to see in the South, because here's the thing about Alabama is they are always on TV. Najee Harris. Another one of these guys that, I haven't dove a ton into the tape, but just when I see him, he just reminds me of like a fighter like J.K. Dobbins. Now, I'm not comparing them, apples to apples, but just a dude that just runs sort of like him and is physical with it. And that's what I like about him. But who do you got? Who's the Big Ten guy? And if he's from Michigan, I'm hanging up.
No, he's another running back from the Penn State Nittany Lions. The team has given us guys like Saquon Barkley, like Miles Sanders. His name is Journey Brown. And I was trying to get a hold of Nick or Garrett Price to give me some 411, but we'll get Shane or Kane. They were tied up with other things. Good for my man Shane P. Hallam. By the way, the OG. If you're wondering who put James Robinson on the map, it was Shane P. motherfucking Hallam who said that on the Dynasty WarZone in February of 2019. No, not February 2020, as in like 7 months ago, like as in 19 months ago. He told us 19 months ago to look out for a kid named James Robinson. But Shane is a teacher by trade, and he was back in his classroom today. Good for him. I hope he's staying safe. And then our good man Kane had some personal stuff come up today, so didn't want to bother either one of those guys. But this is a name you'll certainly be hearing a lot of. Journey Brown. He had 890 yards last year on 129 carries. That's 6.9 per. He had 15 receptions, which wasn't a huge target volume share, but I do like seeing a little bit of pass catching in college, and I like his size. We'll obviously have to see his measurables at the combine. 5'11", 215. If he runs that with that Penn State speed that we've seen at the combine in the last few years, this guy could be vaulting up draft board. So that was the guy I wanted to bring up.
To throw that in there, the way this dude ended the season last year, 124 yards, 100 yards, 103 yards, 202 yards, with a 64-yard game against the Ohio State Buckeyes on only 11 carries. Dude showed that he can do it, and he's never really been given a ton of opportunity because they've had so many great backs there. But That was a good call. And he is definitely going to be one of those trendy guys that just creeps up and up and up into first rounds next year. Certainly.
He's going to be the guy that with a good athletic performance at the combine, he is just going to jump. The knock on him will be the lack of college production, especially if the Big Ten does not get back on the field this year.
Yep.
But he is also going to be, kind of like, I guess Alvin Kamara is not like a fair comp, but except from the fact that they were both low mileage guys coming out. That tends to make a lot of people nervous. I think his stock could be very Antonio Gibson-esque. If he lands in a great spot, he could be, jetpack to the moon. If he lands in a horrible spot, he may be drugged down into the mud. But he was certainly a name that I was trying to give you someone to think about as we, talk about this 2020 season from a dynasty standpoint. But Jerry, enough talking about the bus, the rookies, the thing. It's the games, man. We have games on Thursday night, tomorrow night, live on the YouTube feed, much like this show's been. Me and Dr. Kyle are going to cover some gambling and DFS and player prop stuff. I know you're going to tune in. You have anything for Thursday night and any bold predictions this week? I know you're not a gambler. I know you're not a DFS guy, really. But do you have a prediction, anything that you want these people to know before we wrap this mug up?
Deshaun Watson is not busting. Stop overthinking about it. That dude is a dog. He's going to kick the piss out of him. There's my take.
You want me to share a great nugget I heard from the Vegas guys today about Deshaun Watson?
You know I do.
So the over-under win total in Vegas on the Houston Texans is 7.5. And my man RJ Bell said, when was the last time a top 5 quarterback in the NFL had an over and under win total sub 500? And like the light bulb went off above my head. Now, are they going to win this game? Probably not. I mean, on the road, week 1, no preseason in Houston. In KC.
Yeah.
Probably not. But that was just very simply and very well said by RJ. When was the last time a top 5 QB was projected to have a losing record in a division where he's probably going to get 2 wins against Houston? And let's say he splits with Indy and Tennessee. There's 4 wins right there. So for them to win 4 more games is probably not out of the question. I'm not going to piggyback someone else's take, but since you brought up Deshaun Watson, I will share that. We will have that. We're going to look ahead to week 2 in the betting lines. And guys, I mentioned earlier about our new sponsor, which I'll hit again here in just a second. Jerry, it looks like we're finally going to get some Dynasty Warzone merch. We'll be linking that probably next week's show. And
spoiler, I am looking at it in the Patreon chat right now. What one of them is? Randy and Matt, man, you guys are just two peas in a pod.
When I saw this shirt, this is a deep hook. We're getting our tease. When I saw this shirt, I was like, this thing is going to go bananas. People will want it for so many reasons, and it may not always be Dynasty related because it's a sweet design. We're finally doing it. We're hoping to have this thing live by the weekend, live merch. And if you're looking for a nice pair of joggers or a pair of athletic shorts to wear with your Dynasty Warzone t-shirt, head over to thehate.com. That's the word THEHVIII.com. Get you some joggers, get you some training shorts. Use the code Memphis, save 10% at checkout. And they have some other specials on the website as well. patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. And please rate, review, and subscribe to the show, guys. It means a ton. And then the YouTube. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the YouTube. You'll get Table Talk with Matty Big Chest. You'll get some Dynasty Nuggets with me and Jerry. You'll get some injury stuff with Dr. Kyle, as well as both live streams of the Dynasty Warzone, of the Fabulous Big Bet. It's all here on YouTube. And Jerry, I've got one more podcast to cut, and then it's nothing but football the rest of this week for me, man.
So set your lineups. Listen, if you're listening to this right now and you're not watching the YouTube, it's coming out on Wednesday, which means tomorrow football starts. Not starting. It's not getting canceled. It's not getting postponed. If you're listening to this right now on Podbean or iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen, tomorrow's football, baby. So set your lineups. Don't mess it up early. Let's go. Let's eat. Everybody eating. Everybody winning ships this year.
All right. Well, Jerry's fired up. Like I said, he's been hanging out with Pablo Escobar, it would appear. But he's fired up because he's here to help you. I'm here to help you. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter for the show at Dynasty Warzone. I'm at DWZ Memphis. He's at Jerry Sin DWZ. And remember, here at the Dynasty Warzone, we are just trying to make the world a better place for fantasy football. We'll be back here week 2, recapping week 1 this time next week. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, guys.